Hey everybody. I wanted to make a follow-up to the last video because I noticed a calculation error in it and I wanted to address that. And I also wanted to point out why it's so important to document these things and tell the truth about what is ultimately entertainment and not really the bedrock of anyone's personality or life. I said that the domestic box office was where the new Superman movie was winning, right? Look at the numbers that I was posting. It was projected to surpass Man of Steel, but hadn't at the time of recording and has not still at the time of recording this. So technically, they were bragging about it being projected to beat, not that it had beaten, and it was only domestic, not worldwide. And again, no one wants to factor in inflation, even though it's clearly a factor in the production costs of making a movie. So it would benefit, comparing the cost of this movie to Batman Begins or Man of Steel to factor in the cost of this, to factor in inflation, making it more difficult for James to do his job. But since no one wants to talk about that, I guess we're just going to pretend like it doesn't exist. But people who got excited at the idea of shitting on Zack Snyder really took this and ran with it, even though, again, it says domestic, not worldwide, and that it actually hadn't even beaten it, and at time of recording still has not. And the same people who say that kindness is punk rock will retweet things saying that Zack Snyder wasn't screwed over when he was forced to choose between the franchise he had created for DC or being allowed to bury his daughter and grieve because they refused to pause. I talk about that in my second book. They had clauses, executives did at the time in their contracts to make quote unquote good choices. And they had bet all of their bonuses on this movie making a certain amount of bank. And if they paused filming, it would have pushed it into another fiscal quarter, so they wouldn't have got their bonuses in that one. So it's not even that they would have been deprived of a bonus, it's that they would have had to wait longer for it, and they didn't want to. But you see people like this. He made a meme saying Zack Snyder fans are angry. Mind you, this is a post made by the Harley Quinn show. It's an entire fictional version of Snyder fans, and Snyder fans weren't upset about the new movie making less money than Man of Steel. We were just not thrilled with the way people were acting about it, that the toxicity was really the issue. But I guess it's easier to distract from the real problem. And then people were like, hey, why don't you act normal? There's bad people in every fandom. What happened to getting along? And this guy then used those images that I've debunked about a gajillion times here. One of them was made by that homophobe that hates Zack Snyder. The other one was AI. I'll just have the video linked in the description or comments down below. This is what the thumbnail will look like. And then when I pointed out that those weren't Snyder fans and that people had been mocking Autumn Snyder, that they sent death threats to Henry Cavill as soon as he was cast, before Ben Affleck had made a costume fitting or read the script, before the script was finalized by Chris Terrio for Batman v Superman, he was getting death threats and change.org things to remove him and all this other horrible stuff. And this guy said, oh, yeah, well, that doesn't matter because I'm fine with lying and saying that none of these people exist and they don't actually count towards our fandom. But our fandom doing nasty things, posing as your fandom, does count. So it's important to talk about this because these guys just write fan fiction, right? Snyder fans weren't mad that Superman Legacy was making less than Man of Steel. Frankly, it should be making far more given the price tag. I already did a whole video on it. I'm not going to regurgitate it. In short order, no, making less than Man of Steel didn't piss anyone off. The way you guys acted about a participation trophy you didn't even actually earn yet was what kind of annoyed them because it was toxic, it wasn't very punk rock, it wasn't kind, it didn't feel like you were coexisting or being friendly with anyone at all. No, those images were not made by Snyder fans. No, just because you hate them doesn't mean you get to post things about them. And no, the mere existence of being a fan of a franchise you don't like is not a valid reason to racially harass them and accuse them of things that you admit to knowing they did not do. The fact that these people will lie for clout, fake online bot engagements, just proves that social media is rotting the way people perceive reality, and that these people, they're not kind, they're not good, they're not decent, they're mentally unhinged sociopaths latching onto corporate mascots, making it the foundation of their personality, and failing to emulate the bare minimum of what those heroes are meant to represent. Debunked.